right. Are we ready? Yep. All right. So good morning. Good morning, everyone. My name is Reba Collins. You may have seen my name on several emails that you've been receiving leading up to the community experience. Welcome back for day 2. Today's topic is meaningful employment. So all of our sessions, our panel discussions are all going to be unpacking how do we create meaningful employment with the men and women coming home? How do we help our employers who have wonderful intentions of hiring returning neighbors create experiences as well that are meaningful, not only for our employers, but also for the employees that they are hiring? So that's what our topic is for today. Thank you to those of you who participated yesterday and to our panelists and our facilitators around increasing opportunities for safe and stable housing. We had some wonderful sessions here in the Columbus site. I heard lots of great comments, people learning new things. And so, you know, what we want to do throughout the whole 2 days is not only learn something new, meet somebody new, think about something new, but actually do something new at the end of the day. So we hope that you take that away. Also, just again, to thank our sponsors, CareSource, for providing the meals at all 5 of our regional host sites. Thank you so much for that partnership. The PART documentary last night was sponsored by Hamilton County Office of Reentry. We understand, me included, had some issues with viewing that. There were some technical difficulties with that. So we're working with the organization that actually produced that to get extended viewing for us. And we also recorded the powerful session with Malika Kidd last night, and that will be posted back into the agenda in the part piece from yesterday for your viewing as well. Even if you don't get a chance to watch the documentary, highly recommend watching that session that was recorded with Malika. Just amazing. So we want to again thank Hamilton County for that. And then also the counseling center down in Portsmouth sponsored one of our sessions, When Family is Home. And I want to personally thank the West Ohio Conference for allowing me to be part of my work with the conference every year. And so it's a pleasure to do this. It's also a pleasure just to work with our amazing planning team that you saw scrolling on the screen a little bit, just from all over Ohio. This group is dedicated to helping you all do what you need to do in the community. And so we want to give them a big shout out and a big round of applause. So like I said, today we are going to be moving into what is meaningful employment, and apologize for some of the technical difficulties. This is our first year with regional host sites and streaming, and we have over 80 panelists and facilitators. So it's a big undertaking to get everybody where they need to be in the technology space. But so thank you all for your grace. Thanks for the grace, as I have been saying a lot this week, and we'll continue to say. And so again, we just welcome you into the space, wherever your role is in reentry. We hope that your investment in this community actually makes you better as well in the work that you are doing. So we are actually going to move into our panel time, and it is this is a phenomenal panel, and I can't wait to hear from from you all. And so I'm sorry, I'm reading just a quick chat. Yes, can we have Vernice Vernice Robinson from the Department of Rehabilitation and Correction is going to be facilitating this panel. But as she enters into this space, again, a few technical difficulties getting logged in. We're just going to have our panelists introduce themselves as Vernice gets situated, and then we're just, as I like to say, we're just going to roll with it. So again, welcome and thank you all. We'll just start out, and if I could just invite Lori to introduce herself, and then if you would invite one of the other panelists, we will get going.
Absolutely. So I'm Lori McKnight. I'm the Area 14 Workforce Development Board Director for Athens, Meigs, and Perry counties in rural Southeast Ohio. Vicki, do you want to introduce yourself?
Good morning. I'm Vicki Miller. I'm the director of the TAP project, which is located in Central Ohio. And I'm looking for our next person. Harry, will you introduce yourself?
Well, I got some big shoes to fill today. They have me down there as Reba, so I got some big shoes to fill. So my name is Harry Cox, and I work for ARC out of Columbus, Ohio. I'm a workforce development coordinator at the Cafe Outlook downtown. So I look forward to this experience.
Good morning. Good morning. I see a Sean Stover on. Sean, would you like?
He actually got stuck in this room by accident, Bernice.
Okay, I
So
apologize.
he's going to stay muted.
Well, good morning, and I apologize for all the technical difficulties I was having this morning. My heart is fluttering, but I'm glad to be on this call, and I'm glad to see that Vicki Miller and I are bringing our animal-like behavior today. So
You got the email.
Yes, we are going to tackle what is meaningful employment. Can you all hear me clearly? I'm not muffled or anything, am I?
Nope.
Nope, you sound
Awesome.
great.
Awesome. So as Reba indicated, I am the Workforce Development Administrator for ODRC. My role is to connect incarcerated adults with employment opportunities. I've had the opportunity to work with each one of these panelists with the exception of Lori, but we've had some great conversations, and I know that our work will continue. It is very, very important for us to work to acquire meaningful employment for returning citizens or justice-involved persons. From the ODRC, we return 20,000 persons to the community every day.
Wow.
I mean, yearly, I'm sorry, not every day, yearly, annually, 20,000 persons. That is an employment, that could fill a big employment gap right there if simply given the chance. So we're going to talk about that today. We're going to dive into this situation and we're going to talk about what it means. So the first thing I would like to ask our panelists, hello, how are you?
Hello. Sorry, I'm late.
Okay, no worries. Can you please introduce yourself to the group?
Okay. Hello, I'm Lewis Fields. I'm out of Youngstown, Ohio, and Cleveland, Ohio. I go back and forth. I'm creator of Books for Bruises, Learn and Overcoming Violence Every Day. It's a initiative to help kids and families overcome trauma through improved literacy and executive function skills. I'm also the outreach manager, community outreach manager for the Marshall Project, which is a digital reporting agency that deals with criminal justice reform. So, hello. Welcome.
Awesome, welcome, and thank you for joining us this morning, Lewis. Okay, so we're going to dive into the first question, and I would love for each of you to take time to respond to it. From your experience and perspective, why is it important for people coming home to have opportunities for meaningful employment? And I would like to begin this question with Harry. I would like Harry to respond to that.
Wow, that's a big question this morning. I have numerous experiences from incarceration to public sector of getting a job. And my experiences of actually maintaining meaningful employment. First and foremost, I like to go back to nobody ever explained to me what meaningful employment was. They always just told me to come out, go get a job, take care of your family and everything like that. But my experiences in gaining meaningful employment have came a long way. I had to go back and get an education in what I actually valued, addiction studies. So I had to get an education first and foremost, but I had to make sure that everything related to everything that I said I valued. So coming out my experiences, especially in the community, I was told no in a lot of job sectors because I didn't have the education, I didn't have the experience. But then coming home, I knew I had to take care of my family too. So I had to just go out and take minimum labor jobs. But nobody ever told me that I had to go get a physical, make sure that my mental and physical health was in order for me to maintain employment. So I lost a lot of jobs that way. But fortunately for me, when I got out of incarceration, I went to what we call 10 years ago. So I went to an organization. They actually asked me, what did I want to do? And for the first time, I never knew what I wanted to do. I never knew what I wanted to go, where I wanted to go. So they directed me to Columbus State. So I dibbled and dabbled in mental health, addiction, and disabilities because I wanted to get back. And then I went for a master's degree in it. And then it wasn't what I wanted because it was in just addiction studies. So I went out again. So I ended up going to spiritual counseling with a master's degree. And then I came back to addiction because it was meaningful for me to be able to help people. And now I'm working on my PhD in psychology, but the experiences for me have not changed yet. And I hate to have to say it, with all of this great wealth, I'm still struggling with expungements. I can't get my record expunged, so I can't get the meaningful job that I want to get at the VA. So these are things that are still standing in my way, but fortunately I go back on the 31st of October and hopefully it'll be done then. I didn't know it would be so many challenges when the word meaningful came in, because meaningful to me today means that I'm giving back to the community. And sometimes it becomes a deterrent when you want to give back to the community in the employment that you do, in the job sector that you do, that nobody will still give you the opportunity or a chance to perform that job the way that you want it performed. So I know coming home for a lot of people, I have serviced over 16,000 people in the last 8 years, but nobody, when they come home, has been able to tell me where they want to go. First thing they do is say, I want employment. We send them out into the job sector where people just say, you're hired today. I'll see them 2 weeks later. Oh, I can't do this. So we're back at the drawing board. So I think from my experiences, if people would look at people coming home from incarceration in a more holistic manner, to say exactly what do you want to do. And I have that great opportunity now, working while I'm working at an Arch. We actually do a pre-screening now where we actually ask individuals, where do you want to go? We send them out to entrepreneurship because it's more than meeting a person where they're at. It's actually make sure that they can maintain that emotional well-being. Even in our field, us today, if we were to look at it, people say that I have the job of my dreams, but we see individuals every day getting burnt out on the job of their dreams because they're chasing things, but they're not taking care of their personal wellness too. So my experiences is I ran into a lot of people who are not taking care of their personal wellness. So how could they ever take care of mine? So these experiences are the things that people coming home from incarceration experience every day. So I think for me, meaningful employment is being around individuals like you guys that help me support my dreams and my visions and my future in the sector that I'm in. So that's what meaningful employment looks like to me.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Harry, soon to be Dr. Harry. I'm so proud of your accomplishments. And there are some things that you said that we're going to get back to. But one of the things that I can say, you are an SME, a subject matter expert, due to your lived experiences. I don't have that background, but I do have the passion and I work here. So thank you. Thank you for what you are doing to continue to give back and walk in this lane. Vicki Miller, you've been doing this for a long time. So tell me what it means to you.
Thank you very much. Yes, it's been a long time. I don't have the experience that Harry has, but I have a different experience because I worked in corrections for 17 years, right there in the mix with an everyday activity. I was an educator. What I find is that I worked in a program where people would come and they would go and they had very good training from within, but here they were coming back again. And I was always asking, what are you doing back here? What's going on? Ms. Miller, we can't get jobs. What do you mean you can't get jobs? You've got some of the best training. No one will hire us. So when I left corrections, I developed a few years later the TAP project. And what I realize is there's a perceived perception of what someone is when they come home from incarceration, and there's reality. And reality is very, very different. People come home with the hope that they're going to find a great job, like Harry said, go home, get a job, get my family back together, provide for my family. I want a roof over our head. I want life to pick up where it left off. That doesn't work. You can't pick up where you left off. There's a very large gap here in the middle, and unemployment is a very key piece, but there's also other key pieces to make that work. And Harry talked about that. Mental health is a very, very big piece of this. And a lot of people don't want to admit, coming out of prison, there is some mental health issues. You might not know that they're there, but changing psychologically from being incarcerated to being home is a big leap. That's a very large leap. The person you were when you went in, you're not that person when you come out, and your family remembers you as you were. And that's very difficult, making that adjustment to being home. What is meaningful employment? It's a ball. It's a round ball, and it involves housing. It involves mental health. It involves being a positive community member. It involves having faith. It involves everything in a very well-balanced ball. And that takes time to do. And sometimes a lot of people, they want it all right now. I've lost so much by being incarcerated. I want my ball to bounce right now. And it takes time, and it takes recognizing where the shortcomings are. We place people in full-time permanent employment. I have one sector that I work with, and that's manufacturing. Just manufacturing. Everybody says, oh, anybody can work in manufacturing. No. We're not about numbers. I work with individuals, and we follow them for 2 years after we get them employed. We see what's going on. There could be a day where there's no food, there's no bus pass, the car didn't work. A variety of things can happen, and this ball can totally be deflated. One small trip, and sometimes that's all it takes, and people want to throw their hands up and say, I can't do this. I can't do this. And we're there to help them do this. One of the things that I find, and I'm well known for, is everybody gets a hug. Everybody gets a hug that I see. Sometimes I'm the only person that hugs that individual. And a hug can go a very long way, a very long way. When I first start giving hugs, people were they put their arms around me, but they're not giving me a hug. Sometimes people don't know what a hug is and what a hug can do. And as we work on through it, by the time we're ready to go to employment, I'm getting some nice big bear hugs back. They're feeling comfortable with themselves. So as I said, it's a ball, and the only way to make that ball bounce is we have to address lots of different avenues, and it takes time, and meaningful employment comes from a well-rounded ball that bounces.
Thank you, Vicki. A well-rounded ball. You indicated that you give people hugs because they are important. I oftentimes tell my colleagues and my friends, some of these individuals returning home, we are their only family. Depending on the length of incarceration, if you serve 20 years, you might not have family that's continuing to visit, call, so on and so forth. So who have you interacted with the last 20 years? Vernice Robinson, that's all I know. That's who I need to call. And that's what makes rehabilitation so important and the work we do. Thank you, Vicki. I want to ask Lewis, what is your, from your experience and perspective, why is it important for people coming home to have opportunities?
All right. Good morning. So from my personal experience, I was locked up when I was 19. A year and 1 day ago, I got out. I was released. I earned my parole after doing 23 years in 1 month. So while incarcerated, the process of detoxing from bad habits, detoxing from drugs, alcohol, trauma, and becoming responsible for my own life, you miss those teen years. You miss that age of 15 to 25 to go to college and leave this and change a major, or go to the army, or, you know, do all those things where you explore. So that gap is so important that Vicky was talking about. That gap is that gap of finding your identity. And a lot of us, before we get released, are not aware of that. And I think the ODRC has a great model with the ORAS assessment. When I was working in reentry and I became aware of the ORAS assessment and I did an assessment on myself, I realized something was missing in my understanding of my rehabilitation. The ORAS assessment said I had poor work habits, but I had like maybe 12 jobs from the age of 12 to 19 before I got incarcerated. I had been working all the time, but I see that the questions were like, have you ever quit a job before having a job? Because I would quit a job in an instant. I would leave, go from job to job. And I realized what it was. It wasn't that I didn't want to work. It's not that you're lazy. It's not that you don't have work history. You have to find that thing that is connected to your identity. Like the first brother was saying, he understood he wanted to work in a certain area. So he had to take the time, like Vicky was talking about, and become that person who could have meaningful employment. And that's the key to meaningful employment. It's a process. It's the process of the individual figuring out who they are. So you might go through numerous jobs. I've been out for a year. One day I've had 7 jobs since I've been out. Now, because I know what I want to do. I want to work with children. I want to work with my peers. I want to deal with cognitive things. But I'm working towards that. And a job is just a financial thing. It's just a financial contract. So you can't get so tied up into the work that you think this is the end all kill all, because everything has limitations. If I go to a certain college, they're only going to offer certain classes and certain degrees. When you're in a prison, they're only going to offer certain things. So they might offer welding, CDL, and machine shop or something. So we want to change. You've been there 8 years, 7 years, you taking welding. You're not really a welder. You just got welding skills, and the process it took for you to learn how to weld, how to stick through with something and get that certificate of training and employability, you developed into the human being you need to become to finish the next course. So it doesn't mean you're gonna be a welder for the rest of your life. Just because you take Brandon's culinary program doesn't mean, oh, you can go out and be a chef for the next 30 years. And you have to have realistic goals. There's a difference between a guy that did 18 months and he's 24 getting out, and a guy that did 18 years and he's 40 something, or a guy that did 30 years, or a guy that's 60, a guy that has some health problems. So it's meaningful employment is tied to your identity. It's tied to you figuring out who you are, who you want to serve, the person you want to become, and also setting long-term goals. You can't get caught up in the short term of punching the clock, because you're probably not going to do that forever. That's like being realistic, what we was talking about. You know, you do 12 years, you're so hyped, you got this CDL, and I'm going to go drive trucks. Are you going to drive trucks for the next 40 years? You're only 30. You know, you're going to live to hopefully be 70 or 80. So it's thinking forward, and it's tied to identity. So that's what meaningful employment is to me.
Thank you so much, Lewis. Thank you. And congratulations on 1 year, 1 month, 7 jobs. You are hustling. I can tell you're a hustler. You in your car because you're ready to go to the next event or job. And thank you for your success. Thank you for coming out and running, because obviously you know that this is just not a sprint, it's a marathon. So thank you. So we'll go to Lori with that question, and then we'll move on with some next questions and some questions that I have just from some of the wonderful things that you all have said.
Absolutely. Thank you, Bernice. So as a previous person who worked in the Ohio Means Job Center, and now I oversee the Ohio Means Job Centers in Athens, Meigs, and Perry, we provide that place for reentry and recovery people to return to their communities by offering that support and assistance with applying for benefits and that employment and training that you guys are speaking so passionately about. So meaningful employment, it gives people hope, right? It provides that structure and that support that they need to continue on a good path. It doesn't just give them that paycheck though. It's more important to give them that sense of pride in the paycheck and that accomplishment, right? But we need to focus on what's meaningful to that person, like both Harry and Lewis said. it's what's meaningful to that person. How do you define meaningful? I asked this question of the community, of the home community that we are today, and the answers varied so greatly, because it's a personal thing. And for some people, they do just want to be a CDL driver for the rest of their life, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? It gives them that structure. It gives them maybe that ability to have their own office, right? Just go to work, you drive, you don't have to deal with people, you don't have to deal with other things, and that's okay. But for other people, it's finding the additional training that they need to build on what they had maybe in while they were in prison, and get out there and get a job that might be more suitable for them. So for each person, again, it's so important to find out what that person wants to do, what they're able to do, maybe providing the training so that they can do it, and figure out what they would be good at, right? So again, when I partner with our local career centers or our Ohio Means Job Centers, and we're creating that curriculum or that training, I focus with the employers. Is this a good path for somebody in reentry and recovery? Are they going to be able to find a job in that? And then we create that pathway so that it's short-term trainings, because maybe you get out and you want to get a quick, you need that paycheck. So, okay, so what can we do in the first 6 weeks to get you a certification to start a job that is going to pay you well? But then how can we build on that career pathway so that you can eventually move up higher and higher within that company or within another company that you see your future in, right?
Thank you, Lori. With that said, I have some follow-up questions for you. I know that Lewis indicated that he's between Youngstown and Cleveland, so that's Mahoning and Cuyahoga County. I know that Harry is right here in Franklin County, and I know that Vicki does little work in Franklin County and surrounding counties. But you mentioned that you represent Athens, Meigs, and Perry County. What does it look like there? Is it more difficult or challenging because of the geographical location, maybe some of the offerings? We know that big counties will oftentimes receive funding and more opportunities avail themselves because maybe they have major cities, so major companies want to go to major cities. They don't necessarily want to set up shop in Athens, Ohio, or somewhere like that. So tell me, what struggles have you seen or what barriers have presented themselves when you speak to employers about hiring justice-involved persons?
For us, it's more making sure that employers understand how important it is and what offerings people who are given a second chance have. More and more studies have shown that second chance hires are more loyal, they're more dependable, and they're more engaged with their employers. So it really is, honestly, it's a win-win for both the employer and the employee. So sometimes it's just a matter of getting out and talking to employers about that opportunity and about the fact you said it, Bernice, 20,000 people are released annually. That's 20,000 people. They're complaining about their work, the fact that they're having a hard time finding that workforce. We got a great workforce here, and it's even proven in those studies. The biggest thing, though, it's not just about, are you willing to take somebody who's in reentry or recovery a second chance? How are you going to support them? So I'm very grateful the fact that we have all 3 of our Ohio Means Job Centers in Southeast Ohio have a reentry designated person now. Sean worked with our Meigs County to get a grant that's specific for them. Perry County already has one, and Athens County, of course, has had one for forever. So that we have the ability to show those employers, we have the support for you. If you want to help these people, we can provide that support. If somebody comes to you and says, hey, my car just broke down, or hey, I need a bus pass, they have somebody that they can lean on and refer to, so that person who is their employee gets the support they need to continue on that path to great employment.
Thank you, Lori. Vicki, do you want to respond to that any?
I agree 100%. It's not just getting a person trained and ready to go to work. We have to educate the employer. And many times employers want to shy away because they don't know what they're going to get. And you have to remind people that, look, they did the crime, they did the time, it's over. This is a new beginning. This is someone who wants to go to work. With my employers, I spend a lot of time talking about the individuals that are looking for work, the type of people that, what they want, what their goals are. And then we're back into the plants for the first 2 years doing coaching sessions all the time with our folks. We're not only coaching our folks, I'm coaching employers. And that's a big thing. And employers don't realize until you engage them what this does. Not only does this employ someone, but you're making a difference in a community when someone can go to work and provide for their family. And they can coach baseball again. You know, they can spend time with their kids. You have a happy employee. And when you have a happy employee, you have someone that's going to want to work toward their goals that they have set. One of my employers called me after they'd had one of our folks for a short period of time, and this person kept stopping by the HR office. Thank you. Thank you for giving me a chance. I won't let you down. Thank you. Thank you. They were so humbled. They were so humbled by that opportunity that they made a difference in someone's life. You don't see that every day. When you've got thousands of employees on the floor, how often does one of your employees stop by and say thank you? You know, they really just want to go to work, punch that clock and go home. But when you make a difference in someone's life, that's a heartfelt moment. And employers are finding that they can be more than just an employer. They can help frame individuals and help get them going. My employers have learned over the years, sometimes people are hungry. Sometimes they've lost their housing for whatever reason. They have a child that's sick. Whatever it may be, when they engage their employees, they find those employees are grateful for the help. And they understand what it takes to make it work. And I agree 100%. I mean, it's training our employees at the same time we're training employers. Employers got to know what to expect.
Thank you, Vicki. And with my role in DRC, I have built some relationships with some manufacturing companies throughout the state. And we are currently taking incarcerated adults out from the institution to work daily 8-hour shifts at companies, manufacturers primarily, and in the restaurant industry. And they're making the civilian rate of pay. They're making exactly what the person standing next to them is making. I received a call from one of my employers who said, geez, these men are outshining our existing employees. You know, it's almost as if we could have a crew full. I also talked to some of the employees at the plant. And one of the employees shared with me that he was totally against it. Why should I have to work next to a convicted felon? His words. Because society leads you to believe that every convicted felon is dangerous. They are bad. They're going to display their inner animal, like Vicki and I are wearing. They're going to display their inner animal at work. And it's not true. It's just simply not true. He told me he was against it. And then he said, but wow, I'm able to go home every night at 10 now. I don't have to work mandatory 6 days because the quotas we have to meet are being met and then some. He said, I'm not worried about losing my job because I understand that they're valuable. And I hope they stay on once released so that I don't have to go back to mandatory 6 days. Because he said, while the money is good, you get sick. You get sick and tired of having to cancel plans, of not being able to spend that time with your family or go to a child's soccer match or whatever the case. So he indicated that. So it's working. And if I could share my screen with you all, I'm disabled from that, but I have a picture of a young lady who, when she got her first check, when it says what is meaningful employment, when I look at that picture, it shows meaningful to me. She's receiving a salary that she's never received before, because she told me it was her first job. And she shared that when I go home, I am going to be able to do A, B, C, and D. That is something I worried about because I wouldn't have enough money. I just got a message that they've adjusted my screen. So let's see if I can share this picture just so you can see, because I love this picture. Now, does that look like meaningful to you? She is excited and she's in awe, in shock of probably the dollar amount that's displayed, because it definitely looks a little different than a stub from the institution, I'm sure. So thank you for that. I want to go back to something that two things. I'm going to start with Lewis and then I'm going to go to Mr. Herring. Lewis, you indicated that you were incarcerated at the age of 19. Now, I can assume that maybe you were immature. Maybe that's why you got into some trouble. I'm not sure. I don't know your case, don't know your story, haven't researched it. So I want to know at what point, because I would like to think when you go into prison at 19, you have to prove yourself. I'm tough. I got to make it in here. It's survival of the fittest. So you might not necessarily go in behaving, if you will. You might go in depicting negative behaviors or displaying, or, you know, trying to pump your chest so you can gain status and ground in the facility in which you are placed. At what point during your incarceration did it click? Did it click for you and say, I want to rehabilitate? Or maybe you said, I don't need to rehabilitate. I've been doing this thing. You said you worked from the age of 12 to 19. So you had something in your head that makes you do the right thing. Working is a positive thing in society. But what point in your incarceration did it click to say, let me embrace this ODRC programming. Let me engage and involve myself. Please share that.
That's a great question. Okay, so when I got incarcerated, absolutely, I wanted to be everything everybody else was. The psychological process you have to go through to adjust to a life sentence. I had 15 years to life. So life with the possibility of leaving, being released after 15 years. When you're 19, you're a teenager. I don't even know what that means. I just know it's a death sentence. So to adjust psychologically to it, you say, I'm gonna die in here. This is my new environment. You get around a whole bunch of old dinosaurs. That's what I call the guys that's been there for like 20, 30 years. They're giving you the ropes. You got to do this, you got to do that. So you get inculcated with all this jail lingo and like you say, want to prove yourself. I don't want to be the prey, so I would rather act, fake tough or whatnot. So that was 1998 when I got arrested and got incarcerated, committed my, So in 2002, I got caught with a prison shank, with a knife. I got caught with a knife, not in the action of doing anything, but I got caught with a knife. It is the best day that has ever happened to me. I was put in segregation in the hole. I was charged an outside case. I received 7 years, and I was rolled out to Lucasville. I went from a level 2 down to Southern Ohio Correctional Facility. It was the best thing that ever could have happened to me. It woke me up. God used that cage down in Luke as a detox for me. And that's when I woke up to, I don't want to die in prison. It was like, what have you done in your life? What are you doing? What no more gambling? What no more dope? What no more hustling? What no more faking? You just in that cage by yourself. And I needed that. So from there, the first programming I took that's when OSP opened up, because I'm from Cleveland, and OSP was letting dudes come up there. I was out the hole. I worked my way out the hole in Lucasville, but we were able to go up to OSP and open up that first general population floor in Youngstown area. So when I went up there, they offered programming. We had to sit in the cage, but I offered, so I took COM 1, COM 2, And that was the beginning of cognitive behavior program. That was the beginning of me actually getting this executive functioning skills and tools to manage anger, to manage stress. I never heard of stuff like that. So that was the beginning of wanting to change and changing.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I'm going to ask Mr. Harry, at what point, I don't know what your stay was like. I don't know if it was somewhat of a revolving door, but at what point did it click for you?
I think it actually clicked for me, and this is going to be a crazy story because my incarceration really began when I was 19 too. I had got shot, but they told me I would never walk again. So me being the person I am, I said, I'm gonna run from this situation. So I ran to the Army, which is another marginalized population, whether people know it or not. It's the same as incarceration, the same details, everything is the same. So after I got out the service, I was going back and forth in and out of prison, and I started taking drugs real bad and everything fell down. And the judge asked me, I had five charges at the same time. And he said, have you ever been to a program? And I told him, no, I've never been to a program. After all the sentences of 13 years, I'd never been to a program, just in and out. So he sends me to Oasis, which is a program down in Pickaway County. And we were sitting in what he said, a cognitive behavior group. And one of the guys, the instructors of the group, I was saying something to an individual, and he said, Harry, since you're that good and you know so much, you take control of the group. So I was actually able to run the group, with no problem. I mean, he was looking at me like, are you serious right now? So that was one of the changing moments. But I think the most defining moment, the groups wasn't really working because I went back on the yard the next day and was doing the same type of antisocial behaviors I knew I shouldn't be doing. So I calmed my way out to go to church that particular Sunday. And believe it or not, the pastor had to be 86 years old. And then the congregation, it was part of the gender identity choir. So they were singing that day. So everybody in the congregation was making moves and doing what they needed to do. So I went outside on the yard, and I really don't tell nobody this story because it's really personal to me. I went outside on the yard and the whole yard went white. Every inmate on the yard had on white. It was just like the most beautiful thing I have ever seen in my life. And then from that day forward, I just been chasing it. It's like the only thing that gets me up in the morning. I know how they say it, Moses, I may have seen it, but I might not get in based on the things I did, but I know what it looks like for me. And I think that was one of the most defining moments in my life. And I have never looked back ever since. So that was my changing moment. I mean, some people say it's a spiritual awakening, but I think in the cognitive mind, it showed me if I get rid of all the clouds, the sun can shine. So that was my motto, and I've been sticking to it ever since.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you, Harry, for sharing. And if I can tap in, I've had some private conversations with Harry, and I know that Mr. Harry has a praying mother, a mother who prayed for him to keep him coming and to keep him coming home and to stay there. And now at one time when Harry wasn't there for his mother, he's there for her 100% now. So thank you, Harry. Thank you for sharing that personal moment and giving back to someone who gave life to you. I have a comment in the chat. They said that Lori mentioned some statistics about returning citizens. She said that they are more engaged in other things. Can you please repeat that, Lori?
Yeah, there's an article, and I'll share it on the WOVO app, or I'm hoping that I think our moderator, or not the moderator, the person behind the scenes just shared it to everyone. It's an article from Harvard Business Review that actually talks about how employers can set formerly incarcerated workers up for success. Actually, a number of the places that they collected the data from are Ohio employers, in all honesty, Nehemiah and a couple others. So it's an incredible article. And in that article, it tells you that more and more studies are showing that second chance hires, that employers are saying second chance hires are more loyal, they're more dependable, and more engaged with their employers than any other population.
Thank you. Thank you, Lori, for sharing. Vicki, I have a question for you. And as it relates, you said you were an educator. You were inside of, I believe you were working at the Ohio Reformatory for Women as an educator, as a teacher. and you took a leap of faith or whatever it was that led you to leave DRC to start your own. Do you see a difference? And this is all related to employment, so don't think I'm going off track. Do you see a difference in the training that was offered to the women versus the men in DRC? And do you see, do the women or the men embrace it differently, the rehabilitation portion?
That's a good question. When I left ORW, I was actively involved in another organization that served all the prisons in Ohio. So I was able to see male, female, on very different levels because I worked with all the educators. I think what I see is we spend a lot of time working with the women in regards to coming home with children. We spend a lot of time on that piece. You know, what do we do? How do we prepare to go home? We have children at home. We want to get our children back. There's a lot spent on that. And on the male side of it, we spend time with different fathers groups on going home with and meeting and reconnecting with children. I think the balance is a little less when it comes to the father side. I think we spend a lot of time preparing them to go to work and to take care of their children financially. Many times I see when the men and women come out, they both have children, it's always very heavy on the male side that you have to deal with the child support that's not been paid while you were incarcerated. How does that affect the paycheck then that's going to come home? And working on that piece, and that's a very heavy weight for the male population to have on their shoulders, because you go to work and you think you're going to get ahead and you're struggling still. You make good money, but you have a very large amount of child support. And it does need to be rectified. Don't think that I'm not saying that, but that's a burden that got placed there that they have to work through. How do we help them work through that? How do we tell them and how do we work with them that we have to go to work? We've got to get this paid down. And sometimes it goes on for years. Sometimes these children are already grown, and I have men that come to me and say, I'm still paying child support. My kid's 20 some years old. That's a struggle within. And I don't see that on the women's side. What I see on the women's side lots of times is, how do I put food on the table? How do I clothe my children to go to school? And how do I work in that proximity to where they're in school, I have childcare afterwards, or I have childcare and I go to work. There's a different balance there. I don't know the answer to that and how to fix that. But lots of times the women's jobs are less powerful than the male proponent. We see a lot of women that come out and their first thing, I'll just go to fast food. I'll go work in fast food. I know I can make money there. You can make money there. Yes, that's correct. But is it enough to put a roof over your head and to care for your children? A lot of the males, they don't want to go to fast food. I hardly ever see a male come in and say, I want to go work at fast food. So their dynamics are different, and somehow we need to find a balance in reentry to where we don't have, it's a teeter-totter and it's very heavy on the male side. And we try to help them with readjustment of child support. Some of them have to work 2 jobs to make a living to get that child support down and make it manageable. So yes, there's a difference. There's a very big difference in that. And I don't know the answer on how to align that better.
I think that one of the things that DRC is doing, it's baby steps. Within my office of enterprise development and workforce development, by placing these incarcerated adults into jobs where they are earning between $16 and $18 an hour. I've already had a few people get promoted, get raises, increases on their job. That has afforded them the opportunity to pay down child support, restitution, court costs, fees, fines, suspension of driver's license because they owe $1,000 or whatever. This meaningful employment and this living wage employment has afforded them the opportunity to do so. Now, one day I would love to be in each and every institution. And I know that we can't do that due to security levels. But if I can get into most of the institutions where the incarcerated adults are community work release approved, and I know it's baby steps. Maybe we're only touching 8 at a time, but 8 is better than none.
Absolutely.
And to me, it also gives those individuals something to look forward to, because now that I know Vernice is going out every day and she's making $12 an hour versus the state pay, I'm going to do my best to conduct myself in court accordingly, embrace rehabilitation, get involved in programming. So maybe I'll be the next one that's selected to work in these jobs. So thank you. I want to go back to one of the questions in the chat. He said, what are ways in which the struggle with gainful and meaningful employment for the formerly incarcerated is our common struggle? I would like to address that and say, it might be, oh, okay. Beltree, are you gonna, I got a message that said answer live. Okay, I'm sorry. So I would like to share that it's our common struggle because our labor is impacted. The United States is impacted right now because if you continue, and as my good friend and Deputy Director of Reentry, Ronnie Burks-Trousdale will say, find a way to say yes. If you continue to say no, if you continue to put up barriers in your employment agencies, no, we're not going to hire Lewis because he was in prison for 23 years and I'm sure he's dangerous. He's an animal. He's not going to work well alongside coworkers. That becomes all of our struggles because now myself as maybe a non-justice involved person, a civilian employee, I'm impacted because now I have to work 6 days a week versus 5 because company A put up a barrier simply because of something that happened in Lewis's past. Does anyone else want to contribute to that response? How is it a struggle for us all?
Well, I mean, in all honesty, Vernice, it's everyone's responsibility, isn't it? To help people by giving them the hope and by reducing recidivism, by helping people feel welcome back into the community and becoming a productive part of our society. It's all of our responsibility. It's not just the employers. It's not just the person coming out of incarceration. It's all of our responsibility. In the end, all of society benefits by helping reduce racial and economic disparity by making stronger families and creating that safer and more welcoming community.
I think it's something that we all have talked about on this video call today. And it's just the stigma of individuals, they don't belong. They have took out second chance. It's just that you don't belong. I have been told numerous times that I don't belong. So it's really hard to digest. Why don't I belong? What's wrong with me? Why am I have to be different? Why do I have to be seen in a certain way? So even when we talk about engaging employees, it's important that sometimes instead of the employees vetting us, we vet the employee in a proper way, that we actually do an assessment on the employee to see if they're ready to actually be able to handle one of the guys that we're sending them. And it's up to us to come back with their conversation and say, is this really going to be a good fit for you? Is this the time and this is the place for you? Do you think that you're going to belong? And how many of us actually go back to what we call Maslow hierarchy of needs, when we actually not only dealing with the individuals, but the employees too? Are they going to love our employees? Are they going to bring love, safety, security, and belonging to help each one of our individuals reach self-actualization at the end of the day? And if we know that's not going to be possible, why would we ever put a person in a compromising situation where they feel that they don't belong. So reducing that stigma, and to go back to what Ms. Vicky said, believe it or not, I've been fighting child support for the last 9 years. A total of $38,000, $263 every 2 weeks. So I went to go get my record expunged, and believe it or not, all the letters, all I had, everything that came down to was my child support paid. And I'm sitting there with my last payment in my hand because they send you back and forth to court. But it was fortunate. Last Friday, I was able to go over there and give them their last $238. But now I go back to the judge on the 31st, but it's still going to be what's next. It's always something. It's always another barrier that they put in front. So I think it's important when we talk about advocacy efforts that we actually start creating Senate bills of our own, that we stand in front of city council, that we actually get out there and we actually, I want to say, not advocate, but actually fight for individuals who have fought for their lives for so long. It's not VA or veterans or something like that, but being incarcerated, you don't know what the fight really looks like. You don't know what the struggle is every day for these individuals while they are there. So I commend everybody who actually makes it home with some sense of gratitude. But one thing we have to always remember too, our professionalism for our clients and the people that we serve, I don't care where you serve them at, it's a 24/7 job. But somebody came up with it, 5 o'clock, you're off. So what happened to our professionalism after 5 o'clock? And we question the professionalism of our people after 5 o'clock. They only do what they see. So I challenge everybody, make sure that you're professional 24/7. That's all we have. We're never off the clock. And we have to be of service to other people.
Thank you.
Agree.
And I was gonna say, preach, Reverend Doctor. Preach. Well, you know, we're rooting for you. I'm rooting for you. I can't speak for everyone else, but I am rooting for you for October 31st, that when you go to court, you're going to get your treat. I know it's trick or treat day, Halloween.
Yeah.
So you're going to get your treat. I see that Lewis has his hand raised. We would like to acknowledge him.
I want to speak to the question that you asked about why is it the community, you know, their part they play. And also when I answer, you'll see why it adds into the study they were saying about how the incarcerated, once given the opportunity to work, we like outwork, you know, our peers, we're on time, we're engaged. My whole ideology and principles is based on restorative justice, the principles of restorative justice, Howard Zare. All crime is a breakdown of relationship. The relationship you first have with yourself and the relationship you have with God, and therefore the relationship you have with your family, your peers, and also your community. When you come to prison, it's some punishment, but it's also how do we train and teach and reach this person and find out what happened to them. And the ODRC is doing a great job at that. The cognitive programs that we get, the platforms that they allow us to run our own programs, to work in management positions, and this job readiness program that you guys got going on, sending these young ladies out to work. All this adds up to community. And we see the progress. We see the brother Harry, you know, about to be a doctor. That's great. I'm progressing in my own little time here, you know, every day figuring more out. And it's great to be applauded. But I want to talk about the other side of this. And this is why we work so hard. The ripple effect of crime. While I'm progressing, at least for me personally, I took a man's life. There's a balance. See, this costs something. So it's not light every day. It's a burden every day, but a burden that shouldn't go away. I'm not talking about guilt and shame. I'm talking about living in the past. I'm talking about I owe it to a family that's going through it every day. Because that ripple effect of crime continues. It's 20 some years later. My life might be roses and sunshine. They still dealing with that. So I cannot squander this opportunity. There are brothers and sisters that are still in prison. So when we get an opportunity to go into a space, we have to be exceptional. It's why we work so hard. Because this thing costs something, and that cost is heavy. Crime is ugly. So it's great to see the rehabilitative side, but there's also victims that have been hurt, traumatized, their whole life been messed up, generationally. And I'm responsible for that. So every day I got a responsibility to outwork, to outproduce, to outthink, and to figure it out and not fail. So I wanted to speak to that. That's why we go so hard. And that's why it's the whole community is involved, because we have a community mindset now. We want people to do their job, so we do our job. This is something I do in my program every day. I say, you're in jail, your foot swells up. And now you want medical. So you go to medical doesn't make nothing's wrong with you. But your foot swole up and you know something wrong with you. So now you're looking for the CO's help, the case manager, the sergeant, but you've been in the block for 2 years. You don't know any of these people because you're a gangster. You keep it real. You don't talk to the police, but you want their help now. You're chasing your sergeant around. He's doing reclass. He got to sign up. He can't help you today, but you want a favor now. And I use that for my peers to tell them this is why we do our job, because we want everybody to do their job. But what is our responsibility? We're part of that community. I want to talk about the community of my peers. We committed crime. We did these things. You know, so how hard are we gonna go for ourselves? Because RDRC is giving us a chance. It's giving us a shot. That's why we're getting released. That's why they didn't just kill everybody. So I wanted to talk about that side of it. What does it cost? You know, it's great to have the accolades, but this burden is heavy. You know, it's a heavy thing to get this second shot at life. And we can't take it lightly. It's the reason why we outproduce everybody. And we're gonna continue to do that.
I agree.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Lewis. Figure it out, not fail. I love that. I love that. And then I also love that you indicated community. See, because we oftentimes say to people, I say to visitors when I take them into the institutions, this is a community. Took a representative in the state of Ohio, a very high-ranking official, into a prison on Tuesday night. And he said, wow, it's so calm here. He had never been to prison. He didn't know what prison was like. But oftentimes you will experience that because it's a community. And if you live in that community, you want that community to be better and be great because you live in it. Thank you, Lewis, for sharing. Vicky.
One thing that I want to say is when I do group sessions with potential new employers, not employees, but employers, or I talk to civic groups and I say to them, the difference between you and them, lots of times they got caught and you didn't. And, you know, people were kind of shaking their head a little bit. And I said, how many went to the Christmas party last year? Oh, you know, all these hands go up. And I said, you know, how many of you had a few drinks? Oh, yes, we had a great time. I said, my person got picked up on the way home because they ran the stop sign and hit a car and there was a loss of life. That could be any one of us. And I try to drive that point home. There's not a definition of an incarcerated person. And too many times we want to put a definition on people. And I try to bring it right back down to the kitchen table and say, look, they got caught, you didn't. And if you think about it hard enough, probably when you were in younger years, you now realize I'm lucky I didn't get caught. And so that realization and bringing people back down to a level playing field, because we like to put incarcerated, justice involved people down here, and we want to put ourselves up here. And bringing that playing field across. Did the crime, the time is done, let's move on. Let's involve this person in society again. It's hard enough coming home, let alone having people that want to keep pushing against you and not allowing you the opportunities that all of us have. And I find sometimes it will wake people up a little bit. They'll be like, you're probably right. I am lucky I didn't get involved in the system. And I tell people it's a system you don't want, it's a club you do not want to belong to. It's a club you do not want to belong to. So think about every action. And I'm sure Harry and I'm sure Sean, you say the same thing. Think about what you're doing, people. You know, don't live just in the moment. And I hear a lot of people, you know, that you're not a second-rate citizen. You are not. And a lot of people want to make you feel that way. And I that's something I fight very hard against is in my work environment, I have people that will come in for me to help them. And people are, hey, did you know there's so-and-so? Okay, your point is what? What is your point here? They're here for our help. We need to help them. And I agree. I hear exactly what you gentlemen are saying, and it's like there's a screen all the time between you and the other side. And I'm hoping with all the reentry work we do that that screen stops. I hope it stops.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Vicky. You know, incarceration is defined as a place, a prison, or imprisonment, but incarceration too is a state of mind. There are people walking daily who have never been justice involved, but are incarcerated within their own minds because something is plaguing them, something is keeping them from moving forward. There's a book written a long time ago when I was early young in my career by restored citizen justice involved person, Khalil Osiris, and he wrote the book, The Psychology of Incarceration. And there are many different points that, you know, I can take from that book. So incarceration could simply be a state of mind. Thank you. Lewis, I wanted to share with you, because I don't know if you can see it, but somebody just commented that you have touched their heart and they thank you for your honesty and your amazing perspective. So thank you for sharing. Lori, I want to address this next question to you. Starting off, if you could pick two things that we should focus our time, attention, and energy on to shift the paradigm from get a job to do something that is meaningful, what would those be?
I would love to see reentry coordinators in every Ohio Means Job Center throughout the state. You know, somebody that has the passion of Harry, and Vicky and all of us here, right? That's going to make sure that we are vetting employers to match what our second chance people need getting out, finding the training or the assessment that's needed to help them figure out what they want to do with the rest of their lives. Those are the two things. I would love to see a reentry person in every single Ohio Means Job Center. And I would love for employers to have and know that they have that support, but not only employers, more importantly for our second chance people to know that they have that support, that person to lean back on. Because it's like you said, Vernice, earlier, they probably don't have family anymore, right? It's like when we had our discussion yesterday and you talked about the kid that was in foster care, ended up, you know, doing a crime, getting locked up. Now he's out, but he contacts you almost every day to say, hey, I'm so proud of what I'm doing. He wants somebody to tell him you're proud of him too, because he didn't have that. I want every person that gets out to have that opportunity, that hope, that grace that they need in their lives.
Thank you. Thank you, Lori. Reverend Dr. Harry, do you want to comment on that?
I think the two things I would like to really see is, one, I'm a piggyback on Miss Vicky, is that we teach individuals to take their name back. I haven't seen anybody coming home from from incarceration, go down to vital statistics and get their name changed to second chance offender. Each one of them, when they come out, they have their name. So we have to start teaching these individuals to take their name back. And then the second thing is, people may say, I focus on accolades or things like that, but I want people to be able to work on themselves. The federal government gave me $150,000 to work on me. So that's the reason why I went back to school. It's all about working on me. So I want us to be more about working on an individual about where they want to go. And the last thing, the third one I have to really say, and I hope nobody takes it personal, but we have to get away from cookie cutter methods. Everybody is getting the same money to do the same thing at the same time. We're running them through like cattle, just herding them through. So that's my third thing, to get away from cookie cutter methods and actually look at a person for who they are and what their name is.
Oops. Thank you, Reverend Dr. Harry. And something that Lori said that I like, she said, I would like to see reentry coordinators in every OMJ center throughout the state. Awesome. And what does a reentry coordinator look like? A state employee who would happen to be Lewis or Dr. Harry. Why? Because they are truly that SME expert. I'm passionate about it, but I haven't walked that walk. That would be great. I can say that at the Ohio Department of Rehabilitation and Correction, we do hire our former residents, they could walk out on Friday as a restored citizen. They can walk out leaving that 6-digit number behind, and they can show up Monday in civilian clothes. Typically, it's as a contract employee initially, and then they can get hired on with the state in some instances. But as the state, we have work to do too. We have collateral sanctions and barriers that we sometimes impose. So we got to get out and talk. And like, I think it was, I don't know if it was Lewis or Harry said, we got to create our own bills and laws and stand before the legislature and tell them, this is why this is right. This is why I should be able to be a state employee. This is why I should have federal funding to go to college. This is why I should be able to live where I want to live and not where you want me to live, based upon something that happened when I was a boy, when I was 19 years old, when I lacked guidance to steer me in the right direction. You know, if it's okay for me to go fight in the military, I should be able to fight for myself as well. Thank you. Vicki, did you want to comment?
No, I hadn't taken my hand down yet, but I agree with everything that you just said. It's we need reentry coordinators. We don't need them cookie cutters. That's one of the things I strive so hard with, because everybody has different needs. And when you do the cookie cutter method, you end up with cookie cutters. You end up with the cookies all looking the same and they all break the same. So yes, I mean, I think this has been such a great talk, and hearing all the different things that we need. Reentry is definitely needed. We need it so badly. We have lots of people who need our help, and we need to make the ball round so that it bounces. And when things aren't in order, the ball won't bounce. And, that's the way I kind of mold my day's work. Is I look at the pieces that need to be in my ball. Some I may not need, but they're there so that it will bounce and we can move on. Thank you.
Thank you. Vicki, I have another question for you. What do you say to your friends and family when they say, Vicki, you're crazy? Why do you think these people deserve not just a second chance, fair chance? Vicki, I heard you were working with that murderer. And as Reverend Dr. Harry said, take our name back. I'm not a murderer. When I was born, my mother didn't name me Murderer Jones. She named me Johnny Jones, or whatever the case. So what do you say to your friends, family, and maybe even other colleagues when they say, you're crazy? Why are you doing this?
And I do get that. I do get that. Not everybody can do this work. There is a few of us that are chosen. And my thing I say to my family, my friends, my colleagues, I was chosen to do this. I did not, as a small child, say, I want to grow up and I want to work. It wasn't even reentry back in those days. I want to work with individuals who are coming out of prison, let alone go into the prison and teach them. One thing that struck me very odd, probably 20 years ago, my father was a teacher, taught in a public school. My father taught in the prison at night, teaching mechanical drawing and drafting at Marion Correctional. And I've heard over the years what a passionate person my father was. He was one of a kind. And I look back and it's like, oh my, I've followed those shoes. I'm in those shoes. To save one person, to help one person become a dad again, a mom again, a son, a daughter, a mother, a father. I can't explain the reward that I feel inside, that I have helped someone make their ball bounce again. And I tell my families and friends and colleagues, I said, I look forward to going to work. People look at me kind of funny, but I enjoy going to work. I realize that this could happen to anyone. you know, years and years ago, we had moms at home when we came home from school, and she baked cookies and we had milk and we sat down at the table and we talked about how our school day was. As the world changed, our moms were not at home. We came home to an empty house. We had free time on our hands. Moms and dads didn't get home from work until late. Sometimes moms work days, dad works night. Then we have the single parent piece that came along, and we had lots of young people having to manage themselves. And when you have young people without much guidance and family, you know, like we've talked about, sometimes people that's done a lot of time, they come home, there is no one. That's pretty much what happens sometimes back down that road when we look at it. There's been no one for guidance. I cannot explain that feeling inside when I have someone that I have helped get out there. And I get these calls. My Christmas days are kind of funny. Christmas morning, I always get calls from people that I've helped. Miss Miller, I just want to say thank you. That is such a warming feeling inside that I've made a difference and I've helped someone. When I see my people get promoted, and we have some very great success stories. I have a young lady that went from watching a bucket drip with water, starting in manufacturing, and now she's a plant manager of over 600 people in 3 years. Every time I see her, that hug that I gave her, I get that hug back every time I see her. And I see all of my people often. It's a love and a passion that not everyone is fortunate enough to work with. And I tell my naysayers all the time, you're putting a prejudice out there that you know nothing about. You don't know these people. You don't know them. They could be your neighbor. You don't know them.
And they will be your neighbor potentially. Thank you.
They will be.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for sharing. You know, one of the things is grace. I think I heard you mention grace. Grace is defined as courteous goodwill. It's deserved and freely given. We all have grace. Mercy is compassion and kindness shown to someone whom it is in one's power to punish or harm. We should hope that we all receive grace and mercy, because if not, we're in bad shape. We're in bad shape. You know, there are 66 participants in this session today. And I know it's because you want to be here. You don't have to be here. It's a virtual world. You don't have to log in. But I know that you're logged in because you're compassionate and you care, and this means something to you. I see some of my colleagues logged on in the names listed who work in this space, and I know the work they do and how important it is. I see of the panelists that are on here what this means to them and the work that we do. I see Lewis and Reverend Dr. Harry, who are the subject matter experts who came out running because they know that this is not a sprint, this is a marathon. They're in it for the long haul. Lewis didn't let any grass grow under his feet, just 1 year and 1 month. And he's been working. And obviously Lewis had to put together a plan while incarcerated, because if he didn't, he couldn't come out and run like he's running. So thank you, Lewis. Lori's in this work. You know what? It may have fell in her lap. I don't know. But you know what? Once she took it on, she embraced it. She embodied it. She said, you know what? This is important to me because this is my neighbor. I want Athens, Meigs, and Perry County to be great. I want us to not only stand up, but stand out amongst the other 88 counties in the state. I want us to show Ohio what we are really about. And that means a lot to us. That means a lot to us in ODRC. It means a lot to hear Lewis say ODRC is doing a good job, because we don't oftentimes hear that. Sometimes we don't even hear that from colleagues who think it's a horrible job. I have colleagues who think it's insane that these men and women get to go outside the fence for 8 hours, decompress and work, get away from the rigmarole and some of the negativity in the institution. We have some colleagues who feel that it's absurd that Pell Grant was reinstated. We have colleagues who feel that we now have college at the Ohio State Penitentiary. Why are they deserving of anything? They are the worst of the worst. But you know what? Maybe they just didn't get a chance. Maybe no one ever told them, I'm proud of you, or showed them that there is a different pathway to walk down. And just education changes people. So now they have this one course, and now in their mind, I'm in OSP and I'm taking one course, but I want to take more because I'm getting out and I want to do better. So that may change the trajectory. And you know what? If they don't do well at it, so be it. But for those who are incarcerated and don't want to go to college, we have over 50 apprenticeship programs. For those of us who live out here and have homes and things like that, we know that we're struggling when we are looking for a plumber or an electrician, because it was pushed into everybody's head. You go to college, get a formal education.
Yes.
No,
Yes.
people said stay away from the trades. So now when you need a plumber is earning top dollar because he's one of 100 in your community potentially. So college isn't for everybody. We offer cosmetology and barbering throughout DRC. We offer welding and working the forklift machines, and I don't know all the technical terms, but I am trying to immerse myself more so in that so that I can be a better employee and a better servant to those who are under our care. One of our core values is hope is job one. Dr. Harry had hope and a praying mother. Lewis had hope and drive and engagement and intuition. So he came out. Vicky saw some 20 years ago that there was hope on a broader perspective. So she wanted to get out and do her own thing. Lori has hope. We are excited and we thank you for being here. And I probably talked way too much as a facilitator, and I apologize if I did, but I hope that my passion and my purpose is overflowing in this session. And I know that each of us on here, the 66 people who can reach out to us now, you can find me, you can Google me. I'm in ODRC Workforce Development. Let's do this as a community. We are a community. Let's make it happen. And let's change the mindsets of people out there. Any
Thank you,
closing
Brittany.
thoughts for the rest of the panelists? I'm sorry. Thank you.
Absolutely not. Thank you. You were a wonderful facilitator. You were great. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Denise. It has been a pleasure. And hopefully if you need anything in the future, we're here.
Absolutely.
I want to thank everybody. It's been a pleasure. Bernice, you know, I'll see you in the future real quick. And young man in the corner, if you need me for anything, reach out to me. I'm here. All right. Anything I could do. And thank you for the rest of y'all. It's been great.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Bernice, you were great. Excellent moderator. You did a great job.
Thank
Everybody
you,
did.
Lou. Thank you, Lewis, and we will be in touch. Vicky and Lori, I'm looking forward to working with each of you and the other 66 participants in on this call. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
I think
great
this
day.
concludes our session.
Okay.
Thank you.